everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Toni Vanschoyck, and I am super excited to have a very special guest here today. You're so funny. She's my kid. But this is our weekly podcast that we do. It's called Simple Wealth, WELLth, and you can find us on YouTube under youtube.com/effing simple, and also Simple Wealth on Spotify, and also on Apple. Now, you guys, our whole thing is we want to get this information out there because we're all about educating holistically. And this doesn't just mean health, it means mentally, it means finances, freedom, faith, but we do have a really good focus on, specific things that we want to target and address. And that means challenges that people are seeing more and more as we grow the economy, as we grow certain sectors of our economic development. And the crazy thing is that I've known this young lady for a very long time, and we've always been a holistic family. Your mom was the weird one that was always sending you guys to school with whole foods and fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So we were shopping at our local grocery store, organic grocery store, and I'll give a shout out. It's still there. It's Zerbo's in Livonia, Michigan, right outside of Detroit. And they were really the ones that helped to educate us on living a cleaner, more holistic life. So, my kids have been raised very naturally. You guys, if you have listened to me before, the last round of vaccines she was about 18 months, maybe 2 years old. And then we quit because we had massive issues with that. And so that took me down the road of really learning about clean water, clean food, clean cleaning products, clean air to breathe. But what I didn't know is that it was going to prepare me for an incredible challenge that we had just a few months ago. So without further ado, being the protective mama bear that I am, but I was really proud of Naomi, and she's 24 years old, and she really took charge of what happened. So I'm going to let Naomi tell the story from her point of view. I'm going to try not to go mom on her, but the great thing is that we've got to get this information out, and people need to know, because there's a lot of people out there and they're suffering, and they don't know that they're suffering, and their doctors are not testing them for this. So Naomi, why don't you give our listeners and our viewers kind of like the whole spherical 360-degree view of what happened?
Yeah. So my last apartment complex that I was in, I had been there for probably about, I'd say, almost 2 years at this point. So last October, I had actually found mold around the air vents, the one in my kitchen and then the one in my living room. It's all an open space, so it's all shared. Had let the apartment complex know about it, and he came in the next day. And I'm not dumb and leave like my doors and windows open when the AC is on, but he came, wiped it, and then repainted around it. And then had told me, like, just make sure you're keeping your balcony door closed, your windows closed. Like, that's probably what it's from. And I told him, well, I don't usually do that, so I don't think you're right. So I had the one of the mold companies around Charleston come test it. And when they test it, they're able to tell you what exactly it's from, like what kind of mold it is. And it was black mold. And they specifically said it was from, and the building was only 2 years old at that point, because I had moved in a few months after it was built. And it was built with wet wood. And that's what the mold company told me. So in hindsight, I didn't really think I was sick or anything, but looking back on it, I had like all of the classic symptoms of, I wasn't sleeping good. I had headaches. I was moody. Yeah, so those were my main ones in that apartment. And then I just was like, you know what, let's just get out of here. So I moved out. I moved closer to my mom, actually. And so moved into a different apartment. And when I moved in there, that they are pretty diligent about checking for mold. So I did like that. Moved in November, and then March comes around and I just got horribly, horribly ill, like terrible. Um, I well, like the first day of me being sick, even though I was really sick for months before that, was my whole body just basically combusted. I was throwing up everywhere. I couldn't keep anything down. My body was so swollen, my face was so swollen, my bruising was so bad. I could not sleep. I was literally having panic attacks for like 2 weeks, which I had had a few panic attacks leading up to that as well. Um, I wasn't I wasn't really eating much. I missed a whole menstrual cycle too. It was just a lot of different things. My eczema was so bad. Um, and my brain fog was probably at its worst. I did not have a very good memory either. And those were things leading up to it in hindsight that I noticed. But when I just was so, and like the biggest thing too, everything internally was screaming, everything hurt. And I literally thought I was dying. That was not fun. To the point where I literally slept in my mom's bed for 2 weeks.
No, I mean, so when she first called me, she's like, Mom, I'm dying. I need to go to the hospital. And
I
I said,
felt so fainty. Like
"Mhm."
I'm honestly surprised I could operate a vehicle, to be honest.
So that was very concerning to me because this was not my child. And so what, I said is, who did we get the referral for the Healing Institute? Was that our chiropractor?
It was our chiropractor, but it was Melissa who knew.
That's right.
Yes.
So these guys were amazing. She was on vacation, and the coordinator knew a friend of ours, and she called Naomi to schedule her for an appointment right
Yeah.
away. And we got her in, and what was it, the next day?
A couple days after.
Yeah.
But it was to the point where that 2 week mark was rolling around, and I mean, I had cried every day just because I didn't know what was wrong. Like I literally thought, I was like, we need to go to the hospital. And then that 2 week mark rolled around, and I just was so emotional. And I'm like, Mom, like something is not right. Like, I don't know what it is, but I am like so worried.
So I told her, I said, we need to have a mold test done. And so we got into, and it's here, and they're a wonderful, wonderful place here in the Low Country. It's called Deeper Healing, and it's all functional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So the great thing is, and they have a great reputation. I just want to go back and I want to educate a little bit about what is black mold. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. But there's some certain things where you will be able to tell by your actual symptoms if you should be tested. But I want you to realize that mold is a fungus, right? So when you breathe it in, it gets trapped in your body. And it's moisture. It's basically trapped moisture, and it produces spores. And so the spores keep multiplying. So, like she said, some key symptoms that people have with this is memory loss, insomnia, anxiety, depression, loss of focus, clarity, and confusion, along with headaches, migraines, impaired motor skills. And you guys, sometimes it gets so bad that people go into what is called a mold rage. So literally, so I was just talking to a lady. She's a single mama. She has a 3-year-old daughter, and we were talking about her issues, and she has these uncontrollable fits of rage. She's 3. And so I said to her, I said, have you ever had her tested for mold exposure? And she's like, no. I said, that's the first thing that you need to do. And so she actually went into her pediatrician, and, I gave her some immediate relief that she could do. And she did. And she did notice a marked improvement, but you can't treat mold toxicity with prescription medication. It doesn't work.
No.
It only masks the symptoms.
And if you don't treat it, it just gets worse.
Correct.
From what the doctor told me too, is it can even get worse once you get out of the mold environment, just because your body is like, oh, I can release it, but I literally don't even know how to. And you're just, I mean, I was feeding it shit food. Alcohol makes it worse too. Not getting enough sun. I was so inconsistent with my exercising routine. Like, I did all the things wrong.
Right. But the other thing too is that if you think that you have this, is that you can have nasal and sinus issues.
And I had like that
Yes.
4-month cough that I had, remember?
Yep.
And like for no good reason.
No. So it actually, what happens is it gets trapped into your gut, and then it goes in through the signaling system, and it's called the vagus nerve, up into your brain. It is so hard to leach mold out of the brain because it crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
So if you have any of these itchy, red, watery eyes, here's some other thing: weird rashes.
Yep.
So wheezing, breathing issues, and fatigue, cramps, aches and pains, joint pain, and it can also cause diarrhea.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
That was one of my biggest symptoms too.
Yep. So, again, you can't just, dismiss. And this is what we see happening a lot, is that doctors will prescribe medications, the medications aren't working, and they're like, oh, it's just in your head. That's not true. Mold exposure is much more prevalent than most of us think. And especially with how they are slapping shit together right now. And you guys down here in the low country, a lot of these new builds are infamous for this.
Yeah. Anything honestly less than 10 years old probably has mold in it. But I mean, the biggest thing that mold does is it clogs your liver so much. So when I got all of my lab work, there's a specific chemical that the mycotoxins release in your liver, and it just clogs it up, and it actually can cause liver cancer. That specific chemical can. But when I got my lab work done and my mycotoxin test done, which your mycotoxin test is done through your urine, lab work is done through blood, my mold numbers were actually like super, super low. And the doctor was like, you know what, like, I mean, even though they're low, like you just don't know. So we'll test again in 3 months, like once we put you, after we have you on the protocol for a little bit. But my liver enzymes, like they were through the roof. My cholesterol was through the roof. That was partially why I was having panic attacks too. And my B vitamins were low, my iron was low. And I also was doing a crap job before this too, like giving my body vitamins and supplements. I just wasn't doing a good job in any department. But once they put me on the mold product protocol, which, do we want to get into that now?
I think that's a really good segue.
Okay.
Talk to them about some of the natural alternatives that you did, and the difference that it made.
So they actually, where their facility is, they have, I forget what it's called, but they actually do this exercise. I went in twice a week for about a month, and they basically, you put on an oxygen mask, you're on a treadmill, they raise your oxygen levels, and then they deplete them. And what it does is it wakes up all of your dead cells that the mold has like either killed or made go to sleep. So I did that twice a week, and I also did brain align sessions, which that is super cool. I loved those so much. I loved all of it. But they basically put electrodes on your head, and it's not zapping your brain or anything. It's just bringing microcurrents to your wavelengths and everything. But what I did at home was they had me nebulizing, which I'm still doing. They have me nebulizing every day with biocidin and colloidal silver, which helps kill the mold. And then they have me on a binder. The specific binder that I'm on is Pectazole, and binders help pull out toxins, and that goes through your urine. So I do that every day. Sauna every day, exercising a few times a week. And then I'm also doing castor oil wraps every night as well, which is incredible for the liver, whether like you're having issues or not. It's just great. for the detox pathways in there. And then as far as supplements, I have been taking, I love Dose, the turmeric milk thistle blend every day. I've been on a Tudka supplement. Um, and I also incorporated celery juicing every day too. So my 3-month checkup, I went back 15 pounds down. All of my numbers were in normal range. When I tell you my doctor was beaming, she was my own personal cheerleader that day.
You were a good patient. You were coachable.
And what's crazy is my mold numbers quadrupled. So when you're taking those supplements that kill the mold and also pull it out, you find that your mold numbers increase over time because it's actually your body's releasing it. So she was like, yep, you were riddled with mold. So I go back in 6 months and she's like, your numbers should be back down to 0. And also too, once like we found this out, we did test my current apartment for mold, no mold whatsoever. So that was good while I lived here for 2 weeks.
I think it was longer than 2 weeks, right?
It was actually a month or 2.
But so you realize the severity of this. There's also a lot of psychological and psychiatric symptoms from mold poisoning. So even your children they're especially susceptible to it because their young bodies are still developing. So if any of this resonates with you, it does not cost a lot. You can self-test the urine. You can
order it and do it at home.
Yep. Basically do it at home. You send it into the lab. It's very cost efficient. But if this is the case, then your protocol and what you need to do is going to be more in depth. And here's the other sad part, you guys, especially if you go through functional medicine, functional practitioners and these types of things, your insurance is not going to cover it. A lot of times they can give you codes that you can submit to your insurance, but this is why. They want to keep you dumb, sick, and stupid. And so therefore, and not only that, they want you to be a lifelong customer through their Western medical protocol. But the great thing is there's so many great things on the market. You know, she didn't even talk about, she's on daily glutathione.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually the big one that they wanted me to add in because my liver was just screaming for help.
Yep. And the other thing is too, is raw garlic, activated charcoal, melaleuca or tea tree oil, chlorophyll, colonics are really great for,
do that
yes.
too.
Yeah. For ridding the body of mold. And of course, a great pre and probiotic. And then also too, you know, soaking in a tub that can actually leach a lot of this stuff out of your skin. Bentonite clay is excellent for leaching crap out of your body. So these are just some of the things that you can do on your own. Colloidal silver is not that expensive, but also too, you need to neb it. So you need to get a nebulizer and put it in there. And what was the other?
Pectazole or some kind of binder.
Yes.
Pectazole is an example of one.
Okay, that's a really good example. I did not know that.
And I just add it every day with my supplements. My the ones that I put in water.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right now, because you know you've been through all of this and you started changing your supplement routine back in March, and then you got really serious about it after that. So what do you include in your daily regimen to make sure you're having optimal level health?
Well, it's going to sound like a lot, but honestly, I mean, you don't get enough supplements from your food with all the shit that they put in it these days anyway. But all of my supplements that I take every day. So my powdered ones that I put in water is going to be my probiotics, my mood and energy, my magnesium, my colostrum, my pectazole, and my electrolytes. And then I do the dose, I do glutathione, I do Tudka, and I'm also on a liposomal. It's like a cell regeneration supplement. And if I'm not in the sun, vitamin D. I want to say that's it, but I could be missing one. And also something that I also started incorporating was IV drips after this, like a couple times a month.
Yeah, that's really important, especially when you're fighting something that is as nasty as mold. And honestly,
it just depletes you of everything.
It does. And actually, if you don't treat it, mold can kill. It's a silent killer, actually. And because it is related so much to the psychiatric part of it, makes me wonder, okay, that if we could have caught this, that if we could have maybe even, and again, this is a theory of mine, prevented some suicides from happening because it affects you that much. So, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up. Now, we'll put links down on, where you can get these supplements and what they're called. We want to bring this information to you, but this is an entire, and really she was for young 20s. She's always been pretty diligent, working out, doing the sauna, getting her steps in, all the things. But when you're crippled by a fungus, because that's what it is, it changes your whole dynamic on life, especially when you think that you're dying. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I wanted to kind of, and it'll be interesting. I'm dying to read these articles. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do that when we get done with our episode today, is that they just released a huge study saying that fungus, protozoa, and parasites were directly also related to Alzheimer's and dementia.
Doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either, because you know what? I really think that a lot of the bad bacteria is really exacerbating a lot of these autoimmune disorders. We've already connected it to that. Cancers, already connected it to that. Mold exposure, which just even makes it worse. And right there, I mean, in writing, medical things are saying that if your gut bacteria is off the charts with bad bacteria, it will also increase and make autism worse. I was just studying about this right before we did this episode, and there's just so many different things. Anyways, you guys, I don't want to go off on this tangent because I wanted to make this about Naomi's story, about her mold exposure and what she did to overcome it. And I mean, you guys, look at her glow. She hardly wears any makeup. I mean, it's just like, she looks better than I have probably seen since she was like maybe 18 or 19 years old. Just her skin, her overall, like, just well-being in general. And so that, as a mom, pretty damn proud of you, kiddo.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words for our lovely audience?
No, just if you're just not feeling good, just go get tested, go get some blood work done. It'll tell you a lot.
Yes, it will. And most insurance cover blood work, but you have to know which tests that you want to have run, especially for mold toxicity. And
I had a full panel run.
Yes.
So that was not cheap, but it was worth it. I mean, longest 3 to 4 months of my life, but I mean, we are on the up and up. I feel like I'm probably functioning finally at like 85, 90%. And I have not been there in a long time. So,
and you know what, the longer it goes on, you don't even realize the worse that you feel.
Yeah.
So you guys, if you have any questions at all, Naomi, where can they find you and follow you at for your awesome stuff on social media?
On Instagram, I'm Naomi Vanschoyck. Just spell it the same as mom's is on YouTube. So and yeah, that's really the only one that I use.
Perfect. All right, you guys, so if you have questions for her, make sure that you check out both of our Instagrams, Toni Vans Official on Instagram. Like Naomi said, it's Naomi Vanschoyck. And we're out there sharing with you all of the amazing things that we're doing in order to heal naturally. And one last thought, get your blood tested, but also too, you guys, make sure you're drinking good, clean water.
Yeah, that was another big one.
Big deal.
That was one of the biggest things that they wanted, which I had already had a water filter.
Yep. But that's really, really important. All right, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And again, hey, you know what? Make sure you're sharing this, getting this information out there. You never know the one person that we may be able to help. And that is our goal here on Simple Wealth, is just to provide you with the information, share with you where you can go, and make sure that you have a functional medical practitioner in your back pocket, because you never know when you're going to need one. All right, you guys, take care. Love you. Bye-bye.